The Valdorian hegemony had catalogued 17,000 inhabited worlds across 43 galactic sectors. Every species followed predictable patterns: primitive discovery, technological assessment, integration protocols, and eventual absorption into the greater civilization. Their xenological databases contained behavioral matrices for every conceivable form of intelligent life. Then, their survey ships reached Sol 3. Kithara Vex 9 stood before the holographic display in the command center of the exploration vessel Dominion's Edge, her six-fingered hands tracing patterns across the interface. The bioluminescent patches along her elongated skull pulsed in frustration as she reviewed 3 months of surveillance data from Earth. "Initiate deep scan protocol Zeta 7, she commanded. The ship's AI, Omnifax, responded with characteristic precision. "Deep scan initiated, field analyst. Warning, subject species continues to exhibit behavioral patterns outside known xenological parameters." Kithara's cranial ridges flared. "What exactly are these humans doing that defies our models?" The display shifted, showing Earth's surface dotted with millions of anomalous activity markers. "Observe. Human settlement Denver exhibits simultaneous primitive resource extraction and advanced electromagnetic manipulation. Their communications operate on 17 frequency bands, some approaching quantum-level encryption." The view focused on suburban neighborhoods. Residential sectors show agricultural subsistence activities, yet subsurface scans detect metallic compositions suggesting extensive underground construction. Pattern repeats across 847,000 similar locations globally. Kithara felt the chill of encountering the unknown. Species either developed advanced technology or remained primitive. They possessed unified governance or fragmented tribal structures. They demonstrated coordination or descended into chaos. Humans appeared to be doing all of these simultaneously. "Show me communication intercepts." The air filled with translated voices. A discussion about weekend gardening contained embedded technical terminology suggesting advanced hydroponics knowledge. Casual conversation about children's education referenced methodologies from military tactical academies. Most disturbing were the silences, conversations their matrices couldn't decode, because humans communicated through pauses, inflections, and word choices that conveyed meaning beyond literal interpretation. Field analyst Omnifax interrupted. "Incoming priority transmission from Hegemony Command." High Coordinator Thane Zerion materialized, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming with absolute authority. "Vex 9, explain why a primitive world requires such extensive analysis." "High Coordinator, this species defies fundamental understanding of development. They appear simultaneously advanced and primitive, unified and chaotic, aware and oblivious." Zerion's optical sensors focused mechanically. "Elaborate. Their global network suggests quantum mechanics sophistication, yet they burn fossil fuels. They've developed planet-destroying weapons while spending equivalent resources on entertainment. Most significantly, our behavioral algorithms consistently fail when applied to individual humans." "Are you suggesting these humans pose genuine threat to hegemony operations?" "I'm suggesting we don't understand what we're dealing with. Every species follows predictable patterns. Zephyrians prioritized technology. Morganti pursued military dominance. Celestians focused on philosophy. Humans pursue all simultaneously, often within the same individual." Zerion's exoskeleton clicked, deep contemplation among his species. "Continue observations for 1 month. If you cannot produce actionable intelligence, we proceed with standard pacification protocols." 3 days later, Kithara's fears began manifesting. Dr. Evander Hollis sat in his Phoenix basement, surrounded by equipment any observer would assume belonged to a retired electrical engineer's hobby collection. Ham radios from the 1970s beside modern monitors. Hand-built vacuum tubes sharing space with cutting-edge processors. The truth was considerably more complex. Evander's basement contained one of 3,147 monitoring stations distributed across every continent, operated by individuals living completely ordinary lives. The network had been active 37 years, established by amateur radio enthusiasts, retired military, and academics who'd noticed unexplained atmospheric anomalies. What they'd discovered would have terrified most civilizations into permanent hiding. "Rebecca, are you seeing this?" Evander spoke into his encrypted microphone to Rebecca Thorne in rural Montana. "Copy, Evander. Same reading starting 72 hours ago. Deep frequency scans on continental grid systems. Penetration patterns suggest external origin." Across the network, similar conversations occurred. In rural France, Philippe Moncler cross-referenced electromagnetic signatures with classified databases. In Tokyo, Dr. Yamato Kenshin analyzed quantum fluctuations using officially non-existent equipment. The pattern was unmistakable. Earth was being systematically surveilled by technology operating on theoretical principles. But here's what would have terrified the Valdorians. The humans weren't panicking. They were activating. Phoenix Station, confirmation from sectors 7 through 15. The protocol is active. Evander felt chills. The protocol had been theoretical so long he'd hoped it would never be needed. Across the planet, thousands received coded messages through non-official channels, implementing preparations most governments didn't know existed. Dr. Anissa Petrov got her alert while grading Moscow University papers. Students knew her as a mathematics professor with inexplicable prime number interests. They didn't know her research had developed quantum entanglement encryption specifically unbreakable by technology operating within known physics. Thomas Anderson received his message tending New Zealand sheep. Neighbors saw a quiet farmer attending agricultural conferences. They couldn't imagine his farming techniques had developed methods for concealing massive installations using geological formations, or that sheep grazed above sophisticated command bunkers. Within 18 hours of the first Valdorian scan, every major population center connected through communication channels operating on undetectable principles. The remarkable aspect wasn't the technology. It was that this network had been built by people who'd never met, had no central command, and operated through protocols distributed via academic papers and casual scientific conversations. Humans had created a global conspiracy that wasn't actually conspiracy at all. Kithara watched sensor readings with growing alarm. Electromagnetic patterns had shifted dramatically. What appeared as chaotic noise now showed organization. More disturbing, her scanning protocols encountered interference, suggesting humans were somehow aware of observation. Omnifax, analyze for detection countermeasures. Probability of human awareness increased to 73.4% within 36 hours. Recommend immediate passive protocols. If humans detected surveillance, standard procedure required withdrawal and reassessment, but their responses suggested this wasn't primitive species stumbling across alien evidence. The patterns were coordinated, sophisticated, and most unsettling, prepared. Display global communication analysis. Data streams filled the display. Initially, normal chaos of billions conducting daily business. But anomalies emerged. Data packets using compression beyond hegemony databases, scientific discussions referencing principles that shouldn't exist pre-spaceflight, and communication gaps, organized silence replacing normal chatter. Omnifax, if species developed extraterrestrial awareness, what would be expected responses? Based on 847 catalogued species, panic-driven communication increases, contact attempts through transmission methods, internal conflict over strategies, typically fragmentation into competing factions. And we're observing from humans. None of those patterns. Communication became more organized, not less. Activity decreased, suggesting coordinated restraint. Most significantly, no detectable attempts to communicate with our platforms. Cathara experienced genuine fear. Species not attempting contact when detecting alien presence typically had developed their own protocols for such encounters, which meant expand analysis to deep historical patterns, search for evidence of previous extraterrestrial contact influencing human development. As Omnifax sifted through decades of accumulated data, Cathara stared at Earth's surface, understanding for the first time she was looking at a planet that might be looking back. Dr. Margaret Thorne sat in her Edinburgh office, reviewing archaeological reports from 6 continents. Colleagues knew her as a respected ancient history professor, interested in Neolithic stone circles. Margaret had spent 15 years documenting evidence that human civilization had faced extraterrestrial contact at least 3 times in recorded history, possibly more beyond conventional archaeology. Reports spread across her desk told stories that would fundamentally alter understanding of human development. Scottish stone circles showed identical proportions to Peruvian temple complexes. Australian cave paintings contained astronomical references, impossible without advanced galactic mechanics understanding. European metallurgy sites showed techniques requiring temperatures beyond Bronze Age capability. Most significantly, every site contained preparation artifacts, objects serving no historical purpose but invaluable for long-range communication, underground construction, or resource stockpiling during future contact. Her encrypted phone buzzed. Edinburgh 7, Protocol Delta active. Recommend Archive Phase 3. Margaret's pulse quickened. Archive Phase 3 meant transitioning from passive documentation to active implementation, converting archaeological research into practical preparations for encounters previous generations anticipated but never experienced. She transmitted carefully prepared packets to researchers globally. Within hours, archaeologists, historians, anthropologists would receive information, allowing them to locate and activate resource caches established by previous civilizations, modified by subsequent cultures, maintained by guardians. Understanding humanity's true test remained ahead. Margaret's role was more than scholarly coordination. Her work revealed something even the network didn't fully comprehend. Preparations weren't random. They followed patterns suggesting previous civilizations had not just encountered extraterrestrial contact, but survived it, learned from it, and deliberately prepared future generations for increasingly sophisticated encounters. The stone circles, temples, metallurgy sites, they weren't just ancient technology evidence. They were components in warning systems spanning millennia. Captain Rodriguez Delacroix stood in the buried Texas Command Center beneath what appeared as small ranch. Official records classified the facility as experimental agricultural research, but its purpose was coordinating planetary defense protocols existing parallel to all government military structures. Sir, protocol confirmation from 7 continental networks. Global activation complete. Rodriguez had served conventional forces 20 years before recruitment into the Deep Service, coordination networks existing between official government knowledge and civilian awareness. Unlike traditional hierarchies, Deep Service operated through voluntary cooperation between individuals. Understanding Earth's security challenges couldn't be addressed through governmental structures. Detection countermeasures status? All systems active. Electromagnetic masking holding 94% effectiveness. Quantum diffusion fields normal parameters. Most importantly, decoy protocols performing exactly as designed. Rodriguez smiled slightly. Decoy protocols were humanity's most elegant preparation. While aliens focused on obvious civilization signs, cities, networks, industrial centers, they missed true infrastructure carefully constructed to remain invisible until needed. Every major city was shadowed by buried installations functioning independently for decades. Every satellite had undetectable backups operating on principles conventional physics couldn't explain. Every power grid was supplemented by energy sources appearing on no official documentation. Aliens thought they observed chaotic, primitive civilization struggling with basic challenges. They actually saw carefully maintained facades of species expecting visitors longer than most civilizations had existed. Sir, priority from Deep Archive Division, requesting coordination with Archaeological Network for Phase 4 protocols. Rodriguez chilled. Phase 4 meant activating preparations predating current civilization. Confirmed, full authorization for historical integration. Orders went across encrypted channels. Dozens of teams began activating systems built, hidden, maintained across centuries by people understanding humanity's survival might depend on resources and knowledge prepared by civilizations contemporary history had forgotten. Orbiting aliens believed they observed young species encountering first extraterrestrial contact. They couldn't know they were latest in tests humanity had prepared for across millennia, and this time humans intended asking the questions. Kithara stared at data streams with unease bordering terror. Omnifax's analysis uncovered patterns defying every xenological principle. Human development shows discontinuous advancement, suggesting external knowledge input at regular 2,047-year intervals, the AI reported. Explain. Metallurgy advanced copper to sophisticated alloys over 47 years during Bronze Age, typically requiring 400 to 500 years. Similar jumps occurred during Renaissance, Industrial Revolution, mid-20th century boom. The display showed Earth's timeline with impossible advancement markers. Linguistic analysis shows consistent references to teachers, visitors, those who came before, across cultures with no apparent contact. Kithara felt species-equivalent nausea. Previous extraterrestrial contact? High probability multiple events. However, additional data requires immediate attention. Real-time sensors showed systematic interference with scanning protocols. Not random noise, but deliberate countermeasures designed specifically against methods we're employing. Impossible. Humans lack sophistication for countermeasures against hegemony protocols. That assumption appears incorrect. Furthermore, countermeasures suggest principles predating our current technology by centuries. The implications struck like physical blows. If humans possessed countermeasures predating hegemony technology, they'd either developed independently along unconsidered paths or acquired technology from civilizations more advanced than the hegemony. Search historical records for spacefaring civilizations predating hegemony expansion. Processing. References exist to predecessors, entities occupying multiple systems approximately 4,000 years ago. Records fragmentary, suggest technology significantly exceeding current capabilities. What happened to them? Disappeared suddenly, completely. No destruction, conquest, or decline evidence. All installations, technology, population simply ceased existing. Kithara stared at Earth's peaceful appearance. If highly advanced civilization wanted hidden observation post, optimal approach, select planet with existing primitive life, introduce gradual advancement avoiding detection, establish concealed monitoring, observing surrounding space while remaining invisible to less advanced civilizations. 17 seconds of silence as Kithara processed full implications. Immediate termination of active scanning. Passive observation only. Under no circumstances attempt further human capability analysis. This contradicts standing orders. Based on current analysis, probability humans are aware of our presence, scanning activities, capabilities, and potentially intentions exceeds 97.8%. Then we're not observing primitive species. We're being observed by something wanting us to believe it's primitive. Every sensor simultaneously detected massive electromagnetic pulse from Earth. 7 seconds, precisely calibrated to Valdorian frequencies containing embedded data translating to perfect high Valdorian. We see you. Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne watched signals across Arecibo replacement array monitors. Officially, the facility advanced radio astronomy, replacing collapsed Arecibo with sophisticated galactic observation equipment. Truth was considerably more complex and infinitely more dangerous. The array was designed by consortiums, understanding Earth's radio astronomy needs were immediate and practical rather than academic. Every component optimized not for distant stars, but communicating with nearby visitors who might not announce presence conventionally. Elizabeth, Dr. Marcus Holbrook called, response confirmations from 6 continents, pulse transmission successful. Elizabeth nodded grimly. The pulse-announced observation period was over. 3 months, they'd allowed aliens to believe they conducted covert primitive species surveillance. Time for real conversation. Response from orbital guests? Active scanning ceased completely. Passive observation mode. They've stopped penetrating communication networks. Elizabeth felt satisfaction. Visitors responded as behavioral models predicted. Faced with evidence their technological advantage wasn't overwhelming. Most species retreated to defensive postures while reassessing. But humanity's preparations assumed technological superiority was only one successful contact element. More important was psychological strategy, resource depth, and above all, patience. Marcus, initiate Phase 5. Show them how much we actually know. Globally, similar facilities implemented Phase 5, coordinated technological capability displays hidden from alien observation 3 months. Radio telescopes revealed themselves as planetary communication array components operating on undetectable principles. Underground facilities invisible to scanners, powered up with energy signatures suggesting unsuspected resources. Most unsettling for anyone assessing Earth's capabilities, displays were clearly restrained. Humans weren't showing everything, just enough indicating they could do considerably more. Elizabeth understood technological capability was only part of humanity's advantage. Real strength lay in something most alien civilizations never encountered: species learning strategic thinking across centuries. Captain Maria Vasquez stood in Deep Station Alpha Command Center, 2 miles beneath Colorado Rockies in officially non-existent facilities monitoring global resource coordination most world leaders didn't know existed. Resource activation status? All continental networks report full activation. Deep storage facilities, optimal capacity. Archaeological sites producing exactly hoped results. Maria nodded. Archaeological preparation components had always been most speculative planning aspects. Evidence suggested previous civilizations faced similar challenges, preparing resources for future generations. But until activation began, no verification that preparations remained functional. What resources are we accessing? Materials and technology predating current understanding by millennia, but fully compatible with modern systems. More significantly, data archives containing strategic analyses of contact scenarios with multiple alien civilizations. Maria felt chills. If archaeological evidence was accurate, humanity wasn't facing first extraterrestrial contact, recurring tests anticipated and prepared across millennia. Archives provide insight into current visitors? That's where it gets interesting. Data includes detailed analyses of apparently identical species currently observing us. Same technology signatures, behavioral patterns, strategic approaches. According to archives, this civilization has conducted similar observations every 400 years for 2,800 years. Maria staggered. If accurate, orbiting aliens weren't explorers encountering new species. They were returning to monitor progress of species they'd observed nearly 3 millennia. Archives explain why they keep returning. Working theory suggests they're part of testing protocol. Each visit assesses humanity's development, determining whether we've reached predetermined criteria. Maria stared at displays showing hidden infrastructure humming with coordination. What happens if we meet criteria? Unknown. But archives suggest previous visits ended with observers withdrawing once determining humanity developed beyond certain thresholds. Question is whether thresholds represent graduation to galactic community or elimination as potential threat. High above Earth, Kithara reviewed monitoring reports with amazement bordering professional admiration. 18 hours since humans announced alien observation awareness, Earth had revealed capabilities challenging fundamental species development assumptions. Human technology demonstrates familiarity with principles the hegemony classified theoretical until recently, Omnifax reported. Quantum communication across planetary distances, energy generation apparently violating conservation laws, material science suggesting trans-dimensional resource access. Trans-dimensional resources. Several installations utilize materials with molecular structures impossible under normal space-time conditions. Either humans developed trans-dimensional access technology or acquired materials from sources outside conventional physics. Kithara felt familiar sensations encountering beyond experience phenomena. In analysis of 17,000 species, how many demonstrated trans-dimensional capability? 3 species. All classified apex civilizations, designated non-contact by hegemony leadership. And we've been treating Earth as primitive species suitable for standard integration. Correct. However, evidence suggests classification was fundamentally incorrect. Kithara stared at Earth, where apparent weather patterns revealed themselves as controlled atmospheric effects masking true human activity scope. Every aspect interpreted as chaotic primitiveness revealed itself as carefully orchestrated facade, concealing capabilities potentially challenging hegemony technological dominance. Immediate communication with Hegemony Command, Priority Alpha. High Coordinator Zerion materialized. Are you prepared to submit integration recommendations? High Coordinator, respectfully, I recommend immediate reclassification as potential apex civilization and non-contact protocol implementation. Interstellar silence, as Zerion processed unprecedented recommendation. Explain reasoning. Humans possess capabilities exceeding current understanding, demonstrate organizational structures operating across centuries, and appear to have been anticipating our arrival indefinitely. You're suggesting awareness of hegemony expansion before we entered their system. I'm suggesting they may have been preparing for our specific arrival longer than the hegemony has existed as unified civilization. Longer pause. Field Analyst Vex 9, maintain observation pending full assessment fleet arrival. Under no circumstances attempt direct contact. Transmission ended, leaving Kithara with growing certainty. She observed not primitive integration candidates, but civilization that had been testing the hegemony as thoroughly as the hegemony tested them. Dr. Jonathan Reeves stood in archive chambers beneath Stonehenge, surrounded by data storage, concealed within ancient stones, longer than recorded history. The chamber combined Neolithic construction with technology contemporary science barely comprehended. Final protocols now active, he reported to similar chambers beneath archaeological sites on every continent. All historical resources successfully integrated with current systems. Integration revealed humanity's contact preparation true scope. What contemporary humans developed over the past century was merely latest layers in preparation's ongoing millennia. Previous civilizations faced similar challenges, leaving behind not just technology and resources, but detailed strategic analyses of successful approaches to contact with technologically superior species. Jonathan, Dr. Sarah Martinez crackled from Chichen Itza chambers. Mayan archives provide fascinating insights into specifically the civilization currently observing us. According to records, this is the 4th time this particular species has conducted Earth surveillance. Previous contact results? Each previous contact ended with observers withdrawing after determining humanity hadn't developed to meet assessment criteria. But archives suggest those assessments were deliberately manipulated by humans to ensure observers reached exactly conclusions, resulting in their departure. Jonathan understood implications chillingly. We've been deliberately failing these assessments? More sophisticated. We've been passing tests while appearing to fail them. Previous civilizations chose hiding true capabilities, allowing observers to conclude humans remained too primitive for whatever purpose they had in mind. And this time? This time, according to strategic analyses, humanity is ready for full disclosure. We've reached the point where concealing capabilities is more dangerous than revealing them. From chambers beneath Angkor Wat, pyramids, Machu Picchu, dozens of other ancient sites, similar reports flowed through networks combining quantum physics with pre-Bronze Age engineering. The emerging picture was staggering. Humanity had played strategic games across millennia, allowing observation and testing by various alien civilizations, while secretly developing capabilities ensuring survival and eventual independence from any extraterrestrial influence. But current situations represented fundamental strategy changes. For first time in recorded history, humanity was preparing to reveal true capabilities and begin asking their own universe questions. Admiral Catherine Blake sat in deep defense coordination, watching decades of preparation culminate in humanity's most ambitious strategic operation, with displays showing coordinated system activation spanning the globe and extending far beyond Earth's atmosphere. Admiral, all deep space monitoring stations report successful activation. We now have full sensor coverage extending to solar system edge. Catherine nodded grimly. Deep space stations had been humanity's most carefully concealed preparation. Satellites and installations launched and constructed over 40 years using invisibility techniques. Their activation meant humans now possessed comprehensive awareness of everything within several light years of Earth, including detailed analysis of alien vessel capabilities, crew composition, and technological specifications. What do we know about our visitors? Detailed analysis confirms they represent the Valdorian hegemony. According to historical records, they've conducted systematic expansion across this galactic sector approximately 3,200 years. Standard approach involves extended observation, followed by technological demonstration and promising species integration. How many species successfully resisted integration? According to archives, none that maintained independence while remaining in original star systems. Catherine stared at displays showing hidden defensive capabilities coming online. Then we're making history. Current strategic assessment? Valdorians possess significant advantages in space travel, energy generation, materials science. However, they operate under assumptions not accounting for species preparing for contact across extended periods. Elaborate. Their approach assumes encountered species react to first contact. They're not prepared for species with detailed intelligence about their methods, technology, strategic approaches gathered across multiple previous contacts. Catherine smiled slightly. So they're fighting the last war while we've prepared for this specific conflict. More than that, our analysis suggests Valdorians are actually less technologically advanced than they believe. Their expansion succeeded primarily because they never encountered organized resistance from species understanding their methods in advance. Displays showed humanity's revelation final phases coming online. Concealed decade systems announced presence to sufficiently sophisticated sensors. More importantly, broadcast signals demonstrated capabilities impossible for primitive civilizations. Admiral, Priority Communication from Cultural Analysis Division. Dr. Amanda Cross appeared on main display with intensity of someone uncovering everything-changing information. Admiral, our Valdorian species' psychological profiles produced critical intelligence. Their expansion isn't driven by conquest or resources. It's driven by integration protocols, meaning they believe they're conducting evolutionary assistance. In their framework, Technological advancement is cooperative processes where advanced species help primitive ones achieve potential. They genuinely see themselves as benefactors rather than conquerors. Catherine felt implications settling. So they're not expecting resistance because they believe they're offering help. Exactly. But there's more. Our archives contain detailed analysis of their integration protocols from previous visits. Process involves demonstrating technological superiority, establishing communication, gradually introducing target species into larger civilization. Species demonstrating sufficient adaptability receive progressively advanced technology, eventually becoming full hegemony members. And species that don't adapt, classified as developmentally insufficient and left alone until next assessment periods. Catherine stared at strategic displays. Dr. Cross, what would Valdorian response be to encountering species clearly not needing their assistance? Unknown. According to historical patterns, they've never encountered such species. Every contacted civilization either accepted integration or was classified insufficiently developed. We're presenting them scenarios their cultural and strategic frameworks can't process. Alerts flashed across every display. Admiral, we're receiving transmission from the alien vessel. They're requesting direct communication. Audio and visual? Negative. Text only. Multiple frequencies simultaneously. Message is brief. Request dialogue with human leadership regarding mutual recognition protocols. Catherine felt history shifting. After millennia of preparation, humanity was about to engage in first open dialogue with advanced alien civilization. But unlike every previous species Valdorians contacted, humans would enter as equals. Transmit response. Human leadership acknowledges request. Propose meeting at coordinates to be provided within standard communication protocols. And get me direct line to Global Coordination Council. Dr. Elena Volkov stood in Siberian Deep Research Facility Primary Analysis Chamber, reviewing data that would rewrite human universe understanding if publicly available, with teams preparing for humanity's first formal extraterrestrial civilization communication. Valdorians agreed to limited communication session, she reported to international quantum encrypted teams. Initial exchange conducted through mathematical and linguistic protocols establishing common conceptual frameworks. But Elena understood the real challenge wasn't communication. It was managing psychological and strategic implications of contact between civilizations observing each other for months under completely different assumptions about interaction nature. Dr. Volkov, Dr. Heinrich Müller called from linguistic analysis, we've completed Valdorian communication pattern assessment based on transmissions. They operate under hierarchical social structures with clearly defined authority relationships. Most significantly, their language contains guidance relationship frameworks, but no equivalent concepts for equal partnerships between civilizations. Elena nodded grimly. So they literally don't have words for the relationships we're proposing. More than that, their entire cultural and technological development appears based on assumptions that advancement occurs through mentorship between more and less advanced species. The concept of two civilizations developing independently to equivalent technological levels may be outside their experiential framework. Implications were staggering. Humanity was preparing to engage with species that had never encountered possibilities that other civilizations might have developed along parallel paths to achieve comparable capabilities through completely different approaches. Dr. Volkov, Dr. Serakim announced from Strategic Analysis, we're receiving additional intelligence from deep space monitoring. The Valdorian vessel isn't alone. At least 4 other ships maintain positions at solar system edge, all showing significant military capability energy signatures. Elena's pulse quickened. Are they preparing for conflict? Analysis suggests standard exploration protocols with enhanced security measures. However, positioning indicates preparation to respond to threats they may not have expected to encounter. Situations were more delicate than anticipated. Humanity was about to reveal capabilities that might be interpreted as threatening by species that had never encountered technological resistance to expansion. Success would require managing not just communication, but psychological and strategic implications of demonstrating humans were capable of independent development to advanced technological levels. All stations prepare formal contact protocol initiation. Remember, we're not just representing current civilization, we're representing thousands of years of human preparation for this moment. Kithara floated in Dominion's Edge zero-gravity communication chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing every aspect of upcoming human leadership dialogue, with xenological specialist teams preparing for either routine first contact or most significant paradigm shifts they'd encountered. Human responses demonstrate linguistic sophistication exceeding initial assessments, Omnifax announced. They possess comprehensive understanding of mathematical, scientific, strategic concepts at levels consistent with advanced spacefaring civilizations, which confirms our suspicions they've been concealing true capabilities, Kithara replied, bioluminescent patches pulsing with deep contemplation patterns. Additional data requires immediate analysis. Deep sensor arrays detected energy signatures from system edge, suggesting humans possess detection capabilities extending far beyond apparent technological levels. Kithara felt genuine professional fear. Are you suggesting they have sensor coverage of our support fleet? Affirmative. Furthermore, communication pattern analysis suggests they possess detailed intelligence about hegemony expansion patterns, technological capabilities, strategic approaches, and implications struck like physical blows. If humans possessed comprehensive hegemony operations intelligence, they'd been gathering information across decades or centuries. More unsettling, it suggested preparation for this specific encounter with knowledge that should have been impossible to acquire. If species possessed advanced hegemony contact protocol knowledge, what would be optimal strategy? Optimal strategy would involve concealing true capabilities until contact moment, demonstrating sufficient sophistication to establish equal standing, leveraging superior hegemony methods knowledge to negotiate from strength positions despite apparent technological disadvantages. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Correct. However, this scenario presents challenges beyond our strategic protocols. The hegemony has never encountered species demonstrating equivalent or superior strategic preparation for contact. Kithara stared at displays showing Earth's surface, where apparent primitive planet revealed itself as something far more sophisticated and potentially dangerous. Begin preparing analysis for potential human civilization reclassification as independent advanced species. Such classification would require High Council authorization and would fundamentally alter our system approach, which may be exactly what situations require. President Jennifer Martinez stood in secure White House conference room, surrounded by advisors representing not just United States government, but coordinated leadership of humanity's hidden global defense network, with wall displays showing real-time information from monitoring stations across the planet and beyond. Status report on our visitors. Madam President, General Robert Hawkins began, analysis indicates Valdorian fleet consists of one primary exploration vessel and 4 support ships with significant military capabilities. However, positioning and energy signatures suggest defensive rather than aggressive postures. Meaning? They're prepared for possibilities we might represent threats, but they're not taking aggressive actions. Most significantly, our deep space monitoring confirms this is full extent of their system presence. No additional ships, concealed installations, extended operation preparations. President Martinez nodded. So they're operating under assumptions this will be relatively brief encounters. Which suggests, Dr. Amanda Cross interjected as lead cultural analyst, they expect either rapid integration or rapid withdrawal. Their strategic framework doesn't appear, including scenarios for extended negotiation between equivalent civilizations. Madam President, Secretary of Defense Patricia Williams added, our military assessment indicates while Valdorians possess significant space-based operational advantages, our defensive capabilities are considerably more sophisticated than they realize. More importantly, our strategic positions are inherently stronger because we're defending prepared positions on planets fortified across centuries. President Martinez appreciated the magnitude of human accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to become the first species in recorded history negotiating with Valdorian hegemony from strategic equality positions. Decisions made in the next few hours will determine not just human civilization futures, but potentially how advanced species interact throughout galaxies. Madam President, her communications director announced, confirmation that Valdorians are ready for formal dialogue. They're requesting to speak with what they term primary decision-making entities of human civilization. Tell them, President Martinez replied with slight smiles. They're speaking with exactly that. Dominion's edge communication chamber filled with harmonic tones as translation systems established linguistic bridges between two civilizations, preparing for conversations in completely different ways. Kithara floated before holographic interfaces, knowing next minutes would determine whether humanity would join galactic community or whether the universe was about to become far more complex and dangerous. Greetings from the Valdorian hegemony to the intelligent species of this system's third planet, she began, using formal protocols, successful with thousands of previous contacts. I am Field Analyst Kithara Vex 9, authorized to conduct initial assessment and integration discussions. Response came with promptness suggesting humans had prepared for exactly this approach. Greetings from Consolidated Earth Leadership to Valdorian Exploration Fleet. I'm President Jennifer Martinez, speaking on behalf of Global Coordination Council and representing human civilization interests. Kithara felt subtle conversation dynamics shifts. Human responses demonstrated not just linguistic sophistication, but diplomatic protocol understanding, implying extensive galactic civilization structure knowledge. President Martinez, our preliminary observations indicate your species has achieved significant technological and social development. The hegemony offers partnership in continued advancement through integration with our broader galactic civilization. Pause. Precisely long enough, suggesting careful consideration rather than confusion. Field Analyst Vex 9, we appreciate partnership offers. However, our understanding of hegemony integration protocols suggests they are designed for species requiring guidance in technological and social development. We believe different frameworks might be more appropriate for our situations. Words struck Kithara with revelation force. Humans weren't just declining integration, they were demonstrating hegemony methods knowledge that should have been impossible to possess. President Martinez, may I inquire how your species obtained information about hegemony protocols? Field Analyst Vex 9, human civilization has been aware of extraterrestrial activity in this sector considerably longer than your current mission may have anticipated. We have had ample opportunities to study galactic civilization patterns and develop our own interstellar relation approaches. Implications cascaded through Kithara's consciousness. Humans weren't responding to first contact. They were implementing strategies developed based on extensive prior knowledge of exactly this scenario. President Martinez, are you indicating human civilization has had previous contact with extraterrestrial species? We are indicating, Field Analyst, that human civilization has been preparing for this conversation longer than Valdorian hegemony has existed as unified political entity. Chamber fell silent as Kithara processed what might be galactic exploration history's most significant statement. If humans were accurate, Earth wasn't another primitive integration planet. It was civilization conducting its own long-term strategic galactic contact planning. President Martinez, the hegemony has no records of previous human civilization contact, which suggests, field analyst, there may be galactic history aspects the hegemony has not yet uncovered. In secure White House conference room, President Martinez watched as her words created exactly the psychological impact humanity's strategists had predicted. Valdorians were encountering something outside experiential frameworks, and their response patterns followed behavioral models human analysts had developed based on observation centuries. "Madam President," Dr. Cross whispered, "their communication patterns indicate significant stress responses. They're not prepared for possibilities that we might know more about galactic civilization than they do." President Martinez nodded slightly. This was crucial moments, points where humanity would either establish themselves as galactic civilization equals or reveal enough to be classified as threats requiring elimination. Field Analyst Vex 9. Perhaps it would be productive to share information about our respective galactic history understandings and current civilization patterns. We believe there may be significant gaps in both knowledge bases that could be resolved through cooperation. Response took longer, suggesting Valdorians were conferring about handling situations their protocols hadn't anticipated. President Martinez, the hegemony would be interested in learning about human perspectives on galactic development. However, such information exchange would typically occur after integration protocol's successful completion. Which brings us to fundamental questions. What if integration isn't appropriate frameworks for our relationships? Another pause, longer still. President Martinez, the hegemony has successfully integrated thousands of species across multiple galactic sectors. Our methods have proven effective for facilitating advancement and ensuring beneficial relationships between civilizations at different developmental levels. Field Analyst Vex 9, what is the hegemony's experience with species that have achieved advanced development independently and require partnership rather than integration? Silence stretched nearly 30 seconds. Eternity in diplomatic communications. When Valdorian finally responded, her voice carried harmonic undertones, human translation systems interpreted as profound uncertainty. President Martinez, the hegemony has no experience with such species. EU, then perhaps it's time for the hegemony to gain that experience. Dr. Nathaniel Rees sat in Antarctic Research Coordination Facility Deep Analysis Chamber, watching decades of preparation culminate in humanity's most ambitious strategic gambit, with displays showing real-time communication analysis between human leadership and Valdorian representatives, plus detailed alien fleet response monitoring. Psychological impact exceeding projections, he reported to international analyst teams. Valdorian stress indicators suggest they're experiencing cognitive dissonance, fundamental galactic civilization assumptions challenged by undeniable evidence. Dr. Rees, Dr. Yuki Tanaka called from linguistics, we're detecting subtle Valdorian communication pattern shifts, formal diplomatic language giving way to what appears more direct inquiry protocols. Meaning they're dropping standard first contact procedures? Exactly. They're treating us as unknown quantities rather than primitive species following predictable development patterns. Dr. Rees nodded with grim satisfaction. Humanity's strategy had always been based on forcing Valdorians to abandon standard assumptions and engage with humans as genuine equals. Communication pattern shifts suggested strategy succeeding. Fleet status? Interesting development. They've begun detailed outer system installation scanning. Not aggressive targeting, but comprehensive analysis. They're trying to understand our actual capability scope, and they're finding exactly what we want them finding. Sufficient advanced technology evidence for credibility establishment, but insufficient comprehensive intelligence about true defensive capabilities. Dr. Rees felt professional pride. Humanity's first contact approach had been designed not just for successful communication achievement, but establishing relationship foundations based on mutual respect rather than technological dominance. Hours later, the breakthrough came. High Coordinator Zerion materialized aboard Dominion's Edge as holographic projection transmitted across dozens of light years with crystalline clarity, his metallic exoskeleton reflecting chamber lighting as he processed Kithara's unprecedented situation report. Field Analyst Vex 9, your communication indicates human species possesses advanced hegemony expansion pattern knowledge and has been conducting independent technological development, specifically preparing for contact with our civilization. Correct, High Coordinator. Furthermore, their capabilities appear, including principles our scientific databases classify as theoretical or impossible. Most significantly, they appear observing our activities for periods potentially extending across multiple centuries. Zerion's optical sensors focused mechanically. Are you indicating this species represents potential threats to hegemony operations? I am indicating they represent something outside our species' development understanding. They demonstrate technological sophistication equivalent to advanced spacefaring civilizations, strategic planning operating across timescales we associate with established galactic powers, and most significantly, galactic civilization pattern knowledge, suggesting either previous advanced species contact or independent development of capabilities rivaling our own. Interstellar silence as Zerion processed implications, challenging fundamental hegemony expansion assumptions. Field Analyst, in your professional assessment, what classification should be applied to human species? High Coordinator, I recommend immediate reclassification as independent advanced civilization with potential apex-level technological capabilities. Such classification would require contact operation, withdrawal, and system designation as autonomous territory. Yes, High Coordinator. Another pause. Longer. Field Analyst Vex 9, the hegemony has never encountered species achieving advanced development without prior galactic civilization contact. Are you certain of your assessment? High Coordinator, evidence indicates human civilization not only achieved independent advanced development, but has been specifically preparing for hegemony contact for periods exceeding our operational planning cycles. Which would mean they have been preparing for this encounter longer than we have been planning expansion into this sector. Correct, High Coordinator. Implications settled with historical significance weight. If Kithra's assessment was accurate, the hegemony had encountered something challenging, fundamental understanding of how advanced civilizations developed and interacted. Field Analyst, continue communication protocols, but implement no integration procedures. Gather additional intelligence about human capabilities and intentions. I will convene High Council to address this situation. Transmission ended, leaving Kithara with realization she might be witnessing galactic history era end, moment when Valdorian hegemony discovered they were no longer the most sophisticated civilization in their space region. President Martinez stood before assembled Global Coordination Network leadership, knowing the next strategy phase would determine whether Earth achieved genuine galactic affairs independence or faced consequences of challenging civilizations with overwhelming military superiority. Valdorian Fleet Movement status. Madam President, Admiral Blake reported, their support ships began detailed outer system installation scanning. However, positioning remains defensive rather than aggressive. Most significantly, they've made no attempts to move closer to Earth or establish positions supporting military operations against our planet, meaning they're gathering intelligence but aren't preparing immediate conflict. Correct. Behavior suggests they're reassessing situations rather than preparing standard integration protocol implementation. Dr. Cross, psychological response analysis. Madam President, communication patterns indicate they're experiencing profound uncertainty about how to categorize our civilization. They appear shifting from standard first contact procedures to protocols designed for potential peer civilization interactions. President Martinez nodded. So we've successfully established we're not primitive integration species. Question now is whether they'll accept us as equals, or decide we represent threats requiring elimination. Madam President, her communications director announced, another transmission from Field Analyst Vex 9. She's requesting additional information about human technological development and strategic intentions, which suggests they're conducting their own intelligence assessments rather than proceeding with standard contact protocols. Yes, most significantly, their question nature indicates they understand we possess capabilities that shouldn't exist in independently developing species. President Martinez felt satisfaction moments. Humanity's strategy had always been designed to force Valdorians to abandon assumptions and engage with humans as genuine galactic civilization participants rather than technological uplift subjects. Transmit response. Human civilization prepared to engage in comprehensive information exchange about technological development, strategic planning, and galactic civilization patterns on mutual benefit and equal standing basis. Madam President, General Hawkins interjected, that response will essentially offer to treat them as equals, rather than accepting them as superior civilizations offering guidance. Exactly, General. Either they accept that framework and we establish genuine diplomatic relations, or they reveal true intentions regarding species not requiring their assistance. As transmission carried humanity's bold galactic affairs equality assertion across space, every room person understood they had crossed lines from which there could be no retreat. Earth had declared itself peer civilization to one of galaxy's dominant powers, and responses would determine human independence, future among stars. 3 days later came the response that changed everything. Dominion's Edge communication chamber hummed with tension as Kithara processed humanity's latest transmission implications, with xenological specialists reviewing data challenging every learned principle about species development and galactic civilization patterns. Human response indicates they possess comprehensive galactic civilization structure knowledge, technological development patterns, strategic interaction protocols typically reserved for established spacefaring species, Omnifax announced. More specifically, what knowledge level are they demonstrating? Analysis suggests knowledge equivalent to species participating in galactic civilization, minimum 800 standard years. However, all evidence indicates human civilization developed this knowledge independently without direct established galactic network participation. Kithara felt familiar beyond experience sensations. If species achieved such knowledge through independent development rather than integration with existing galactic civilization, theoretical implications would include technological development along paths not explored by established civilizations, strategic approaches based on unique perspectives rather than conventional wisdom, and potentially capabilities exceeding those of species achieving advancement through guided development. Are you suggesting independent development might actually produce superior results compared to guided advancement? Evidence from human civilization suggests that possibility. Implications staggered her. Entire hegemony expansion foundation was based on assumptions that guided development produced better results than independent advancement. If humans had achieved equivalent or superior capabilities through independent development, it called into question fundamental hegemony integration value propositions. Compose response to human leadership. The Valdorian hegemony acknowledges human civilization's request for information exchange based on mutual benefit. We are prepared to engage in limited discussions about technological and strategic developments, pending resolution of classification questions regarding human civilization status. This response essentially acknowledges human civilization as peer entity rather than integration candidate, which may be the only appropriate response to evidence we have gathered. As transmission carried Kithara's words toward Earth, she understood she might be participating in Valdorian expansion history's first genuine diplomatic exchange. Conversation between civilizations approaching each other as equals rather than mentor and student. The final revelation came when both civilizations agreed to simultaneous technological demonstrations. Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne watched from mission control as humanity revealed capabilities that had been concealed beneath decades of careful misdirection. Quantum communication arrays demonstrated instantaneous planetary distance information transfer. Underground installations showed energy generation that approached theoretical limits. Most significantly, deep space monitoring networks revealed comprehensive solar system surveillance extending light years beyond Earth. But humanity's most profound demonstration wasn't technological, it was historical. Archaeological teams activated systems beneath every major ancient site on Earth simultaneously. Stone circles, pyramid complexes, temple installations revealed themselves as components in planetary infrastructure that had been operational for millennia. The message was unmistakable. Humanity hadn't just achieved advanced development independently, they had been preparing for galactic contact longer than most known civilizations had existed. The Valdorians responded with their own demonstrations. Space-time manipulation technology that could warp local gravity. Energy systems that converted matter directly to usable power. Transportation methods that bent the fundamental structure of reality. But as both civilizations revealed their capabilities, something unexpected emerged from the data analysis. Dr. Elena Volkov stood in primary coordination chamber, staring at comparative technology assessments that defied everything both species had assumed about each other. "The analysis is conclusive," she announced to global leadership networks. "Neither civilization possesses comprehensive technological superiority. We've achieved equivalent capabilities through completely different development paths. Elaborate," President Martinez requested from secure White House communications. Valdorians developed brute force solutions requiring massive resources and infrastructure. We developed elegant approaches, achieving similar results through sophisticated theoretical applications. Their space-time manipulation requires enormous energy expenditure. Our quantum communication operates without detectable power consumption. Their matter conversion is incredibly efficient, but requires rare materials. Our energy generation accesses dimensional sources they can't detect. The implications revolutionize both civilizations' understanding of technological development possibilities. More significantly, Dr. Volkov continued, "Initial collaborative analysis suggests that combining our approaches could produce capabilities that exceed what either civilization achieved independently." Aboard Dominion's Edge, Kithara reviewed identical conclusions with growing amazement. Omnifax, prepare message to human leadership. The Valdorian hegemony proposes formal technological and strategic cooperation between our civilizations based on mutual benefit and shared development. Field analyst, this proposal would establish precedent for peer-level cooperation rather than hierarchical integration, which appears to be exactly what this situation requires. The response from Earth came within hours. The people of Earth accept the Valdorian proposal for cooperative development and hereby establish the first interstellar partnership between independently developed peer civilizations. But even as both species celebrated their breakthrough, deep space monitoring detected energy signatures that would challenge everything they thought they knew about galactic civilization. Dr. Amanda Cross, stood in classified analysis chambers, reviewing sensor data indicating presence of at least 12 other alien civilizations, observing the human-Valdorian negotiations with careful attention. "The implications are staggering," she reported to security networks. "Our breakthrough with the Valdorians has been conducted under observation by multiple galactic powers whose technology signatures indicate capabilities exceeding both human and Valdorian levels. Are you suggesting our entire negotiation was supervised by more advanced civilizations?" "More than supervised. Analysis suggests these observers have been conducting their own assessment of both species based on how we handled first contact with each other. The revelation that arrived 6 hours later would redefine both civilizations' understanding of their universe place. Greetings to human and Valdorian civilizations. We are representatives of the Galactic Coordination Assembly. We have observed your first contact protocols with considerable interest. Your successful establishment of peer-level diplomatic relations demonstrates that both species have achieved sufficient development for Assembly membership consideration." President Martinez read the message, understanding that humanity's strategy for achieving independence had actually been an audition for galactic civilization membership at levels she had never imagined possible. The message continued. "The Assembly has observed 47 previous first contact events involving Valdorian civilization. This is the first occasion where contacted species demonstrated sufficient independent development to establish genuine peer relationships with Valdorian representatives. Furthermore, human civilization's contact preparation approach demonstrates strategic thinking and technological development, suggesting readiness for galactic civilization participation at assembly levels. Both civilizations are invited to attend Coordination Session 4847, where you will be briefed on galactic civilization structures extending far beyond your current understanding." Dr. Cross reviewed final sensor confirmations. "Ladies and gentlemen, humanity hasn't just achieved Valdorian integration independence. We've apparently qualified for galactic civilization membership at the highest levels." President Martinez understood that universe had just become infinitely larger and more complex than anyone imagined. "Our preparations for alien contact succeeded beyond our most optimistic projections. We not only achieved independence from technological integration, we've proven ourselves worthy of galactic civilization membership at levels representing ultimate achievement for any species." As preparation began for humanity's first galactic civilization participation at assembly levels, one final revelation emerged from deep space monitoring. The Assembly's invitation was being observed by civilizations whose capabilities exceeded even assembly levels. Universe hierarchies extended far beyond anything either humans or Valdorians had imagined, and both species were about to discover that achieving peer status with each other had actually been first steps in journeys that would challenge their understanding of existence itself. But that was tomorrow's discovery. Today, humanity had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. They had established themselves as equals in universe built on hierarchical dominance, and in doing so, had revolutionized how advanced species would interact throughout the galaxy. The marking that made Earth untouchable wasn't hidden technology or strategic preparations. It was humanity's absolute refusal to accept anything less than equality.